Hi everybody, it's great to be back here again on Itamar. It's Friday, and we now just completed the 21 days of mourning over the temple. And this Shabbat is called Shabbat Nachamu. As we read in Isaiah, this Shabbat we're going to read the prophet as well of Isaiah 40, where he describes Nachamu, Nachamu Ami. Not only one time he consoled us, but we were twice consoled over our two temples that were destroyed. And as we have promised, there will never again be destruction of the third temple. And here we are in Israel, the Holy Land of Israel, and we're working very, very hard for that purpose of building our third temple, which will stand in Jerusalem very soon and speedily in our days, God willing. And of course, right now we feel the new year coming up. And it's a time now to get ready, prepare ourselves for the new year. And this will, of course, bring the redemption a step closer, as we know every day, every hour, every minute. We're moving closer and closer towards redemption. This week's portion is called Vet Hanan. Vet Hanan is really, again, the last 37 days of Moshe Rabbeinu's life. As we say, this whole book of Dvarim, Moshe Rabbeinu is describing and talking to the nation of Israel, giving reproof and giving us, again, going over the Torah and preparing again the Jewish nation to enter the land of Israel. And with so much power and love, Moshe Rabbeinu was praying to enter the land of Israel. And our sages teach us that the word Vet Hanan is 515 because Moshe Rabbeinu is praying 515 times to enter the land of Israel. He does not want to be left outside of Israel. And of course the question is why? Why is it so important for him to enter the land of Israel? Why is it so important for the Jewish nation to be in Israel? Well, there are so many Jews scattered throughout the world, living in America and living here and living there in different parts of the world. What do we have to be in Israel for? Of course, what kind of question is that? We know that the whole purpose of us of leaving Egypt and receiving Torah was not enough. God, in His plan, wanted the Jewish nation to be seated in His land, in the land of Israel. It goes together. From the land of Israel, this holy, spiritual place, the divine presence is so clear, is so powerful. And from here we can do our job as a nation of Israel. And therefore Moses is going crazy to try to enter the land. And he just wants to be part of the land. And of course there are so many commandments like the sabbatical year and the laws of Tais that only apply to the fruit of the land of Israel. But it's much more than that. It's being in the land of the forefathers of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's being here. It's being involved in building the temple. It's just reaching the highest spiritual level and existence one can reach. Only in the land of Israel a person can really reach prophecy on the highest level. We know that. But anyway, I want to really relate this relationship of God and His people, to understand this relationship and why it's so important for God's people and to be here in Israel, to understand what the temple is all about. I want to bring a beautiful midrash from Shir HaShirim. And the midrash tells a story about a husband and a wife. And it's a love story, of course. There's nothing greater than a love story. But before I tell the story, it's connected to the book Shir HaShirim, the book of songs. And we know King Solomon is infinite in wisdom. And Rashi, the greatest commentator of Israel, when he writes his commentary about the book of songs, he says that Solomon was divinely inspired, and the whole love story between a man, it seemed like a love story between a man and a wife, right? But it's much greater than that. Because there's nothing more important than a relationship with a husband and a wife. But what could be more important than that? If there's anything more important, it's a relationship between God and a person. It's a love story also. And Solomon, in his infinite wisdom, saw that the entire book of Song of Songs, by depicting a love story between a man and a woman, will show the relationship with God. That's the relationship between the Jewish people and God. That's how it's supposed to be. And therefore, a lot of people come out and try to, talk about the book of songs and saying it's some kind of King Solomon with all his wives, and he wrote this love story. People talk that way, have no concept of what it's all about. If you want to know what really a love story between God and a person is all about, learn the book of Song and Songs. But anyway, there's a beautiful midrash on the opening of Song of Songs, and it tells about again I said a love story between a husband and a wife. And unfortunately, this couple is having problems. 10 years, they don't have any children. So with 10 years without children, it's a problematic issue. As we know, from Abraham himself with Sarah. Sarah offered her maidservant to Abraham for 10 years not having children. They have problems there. So for 10 years you got to try, you pray, it's going to work out. Yeah, for 10 years it's an issue. And if you really want children so badly, you got to go to the rabbi and find out what's going on. So, well, they go to a great rabbi called Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He's the famous author of the Zohar. This is right after the destruction, maybe 100 years after the destruction of the temple. And he's one of the students of Rabbi Akiva, the famous Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he hears what's going on, you don't have children, so he says to them, well, okay, I'm going to give permission to get divorced, to get remarried. And this way both of you can try luck with different spouses and hopefully it will work. But he says, what I want you to do is, this is not going to be a regular divorce. I want you to have a party, a wedding divorce, which means you're going to really make a beautiful meal and you're going to have dancing and singing and it's going to be wild. And that's how you're going to separate, with happiness. It's not going to be conflict at all. So they listen to the rabbi, they go out and they have this beautiful simcha, happiness of dancing and singing and rejoicing over this divorce. And the husband is getting a little tipsy there, drinking a little bit, celebrating, dancing, and he says to his wife, I want you to know, since we're having a beautiful party and a wonderful thing, I want you to know that you can choose anything in this house that you feel connected to, that's precious in your eyes, the most precious item in this house. I want you to take it with you. You can have it. So anyway, he's drinking more and celebrating, the husband dancing, and he falls asleep in his bedroom. Falls asleep. And the wife gets up and she hires these two big guys. They come along, they pick the whole bed up with the husband on it. They bring it over to her parents' home. And the husband wakes up, whatever it was in the morning, he goes, where am I? What am I doing here? I thought we got divorced. And his wife looks him in the eye and says, well, husband, you said to me that I could take the most precious thing I have in this house and I could take it. So I took you. You're the most precious thing in my eyes. Well, they went back to the rabbi and told the rabbi the story. What's going on? They told him what's going on. He asked what's going on. They told him, well, my husband promised I can take the most precious thing and I took him because... And Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai stops, he stands up and he says, if this is a love that you have between the two of you, right now I'm going to bless you. Pray even harder. And he prays for them, and that same year they were blessed with a child. And this is the beautiful story. And what, of course, is the deep meaning behind this amazing midrash is that this represents the relationship between God and Israel. Although we were exiled out of our land, and we seem to have lost we would seem to be divorced. And there are so many people in the world throughout our exile. This has been a long separation, much more than 10 years. It's been 2,000 years. And then until we finally return to the land of Israel. And throughout the exile, so many nations of the world, that's it, the Jewish people are damned. They're no longer married to God. They're no longer a chosen nation. Today it's called replacement theology. We know there are many that use that term as replacement theology. But here, this midrash is written, going back almost 2,000 years ago. And it was saying that the relationship is what Solomon was teaching us when he wrote this thousands of years ago, King Solomon, that the relationship with the Jewish people and God is a relationship that you can't separate. And even though it may look that way with divorce, and this whole thing was we look like we're separated. But it's going to again return. The original love between husband and wife will return to the way it was when they first met. And this love story between the Jewish nation and God is what it's all about. And this is what, of course, why Moshe Rabbeinu is praying to enter the land, because the love story becomes complete when you take your wife into your home. And God wants us in His home. He wants to take He wants to take us and bring us to His home. And only when we build a home, we build a house in His name. And His house is the temple. In the land can we reach this wonderful relationship. It's so crazy. Today we live in a time where we have no concept of what it's like to have prophecy flowing in our veins. And then just a natural connection with God on such a high level, spiritual level. This is what's missing. This is what's going to happen soon. People have to wake up and realize we are heading towards prophecy. We're heading towards the days again when we'll have this close relationship with God. We'll know exactly what God wants from us. Right now, it's so painful sometimes. We don't understand to do this, to do that. We have so many questions. But the world out there is waiting for answers. Israel, again, is not a nation that's meant to be alone only. Although it says, Am levadad yishkon, you are a nation that will dwell alone. Dwelling alone for a purpose means in order for us to be strong and do our purpose in this world, we have to have our land. People can't take our land from us. And that way, we're a nation that will dwell alone in our land, like any other nation. But we can't separate ourselves from the world, because the world is waiting for an answer. They want the Jewish nation to show them the right path in this world. And that's our purpose in this world. And this is what this love story is all about to us in God, because God wants us to wake the world up and show them what the right direction is to follow, and how to get close to Him, how to build this relationship with Him. And this is the beauty again of Shir HaShirim, this Song of Songs, relating this relationship and what Moses, of course, was all about, leading us to reach this level of holiness in the land of Israel. And of course, Moshe was told no, but Joshua, of course, was allowed to continue, and that was his mission, to continue this process. And today, thousands of years later, here I am in Itamar, the soul of Itamar, and we are right now reliving history, and we are living prophecy. And very soon we'll see changes in the land as we get stronger and stronger, and this mission gets closer and closer of having our temple rebuilt and having the world reach peace. There's so much crazy things going on in the world. Crazy things going on in the world. It's all happening because that things are not in their proper places. And just allow and help Israel be strong, and the entire world be blessed in every way. In every way. This whole, again, the economic crisis, everyone's worried about riots in London. The whole world's going crazy. Syria destroying everyone, right? Syria can go ahead and kill their people, destroy them, terrible atrocities that commit their own people. And Israel is a problematic issue. Israel becomes a problematic issue. It's insane. Let Israel live, let Israel be strong, and we will see, God willing, a tremendous blessing for the entire world. Shabbat Shalom. I'll speak to you next week. Bye-bye.